Hello everybody, welcome to the second vlog update of the Disneyland Magical Audio Tour on DisneyChris.com. As promised, here is my bi-weekly video, and every other Friday you can expect to have a video update of everything that has been added to my website. This week, not only am I going to talk about the few things I've added to my site since my last update, but I'm also going to get into a little bit of history, and I'm going to answer some of the most frequently asked questions that people who visit my site have emailed me or talked to me on Facebook and asked me. So I have actually 5 questions that I get asked all the time, and I'm going to answer them for you now so that I have a place I can send people when they ask me those questions, and then that way I don't have to answer them over and over and over again. First thing I want to talk about this week is, like I said in my video last week, which was not an update but was just a general video. I'm going to have a general video every other week too, so it'll go general video, update, general video every other week from now on. So there'll be a weekly video, but the update to the Magical Audio Tour will be every other week. So, since I last spoke with you, I have started my Donald Duck month as I said I would. Here is what my homepage looks like now. Donald Duck has taken over, and if you scroll down, here's the song of the day. It's a Donald Duck song, and here is what the index page, or the archive page, I should say, looks like. I have a little Donald Duck up at the top here, and so far today is June 2nd, so we've had 2 songs, so this list will grow throughout the month. So be sure to check out my Donald Duck month, a month-long tribute to Donald Duck on DisneyChris.com. Now for what you all came for, the update to what has been added to the Disneyland Magical Audio Tour since my last update. Well, I've strictly been working on one chapter, and that is Disneyland After Dark. And I've been going in order, and starting off where I left off. Last time I spoke with you, I had everything up to track 45 completed on this chapter. So now I've added from track 46 through track 58. That's everything that's been added since the last time I spoke to you. So 12 new additions. Well, 11 because one of them was already there. Actually, it was this one. I did not update this one, so it's the same. Actually, let me take that back again. 10, because I didn't update this one either. That one was already there. So 10 new additions have been made since the last time I spoke with you, and I will get into those in detail. The first new addition, if you hear a little bit of meowing, that's my cat Lily. She decided that she wanted to watch me record today, so she's our co-host today. My first track that I added was Country Music Jubilee. You may not have heard of this, but from about 1966 well into the 80s, there was a weekly concert series that took place at Disneyland every Sunday. During peak periods, so not every Sunday, but like in the summer and during Christmas and things like that. And this was just basically popular recording stars from the country music industry were invited to perform live at Disneyland. And it started off at the Fantasyland Theater in 1966, and then they moved over to the Tomorrowland stage in 1967 when that opened. And the roster of talent that performed there, if you're a fan of classic country, pretty much anybody who was anybody in the country music scene performed at Disneyland during this period. Interesting fun fact that I found out while doing the research for this track is that a lot of the artists that appeared in the earlier days during the late 60s and early 70s were the same artists that they selected songs from, recordings from, to include in the Country Bear Jamboree. They didn't use the original recordings. They re-recorded them as the characters in the show. But there's even one exception to that, and I'll tell you what that is in a second. But the artists that appeared at the Country Music Jubilee, almost all of the songs from the Country Bear Jamboree were taken from artists that performed in the park live, which is really fascinating. And I know that because of all the research that my great friend Foxy Hooves, she has an amazing website called Passport to Dreams, old and new. And if you've never been there, you need to check it out because she has some fascinating, in-depth articles about the history of both Disneyland and Walt Disney World. And it's information you just won't find anywhere else. She really delves into the topics in depth. And one of the topics that she posted a few years ago, which I'm fascinated by, is her research on the music of the Country Bear Jamboree. And several of the artists that she talks about in this article are artists that I included in my Country Music Jubilee track. And I'll tell you who they are. The Stonemans. You'll hear a song from them. You'll hear a song by Homer and Jethro. Tex Ritter. And Tex Ritter is the only person, and by the way, he's John Ritter's father, for those who didn't know. He's the only person whose actual original version of a song, they didn't re-record it. Disney did not re-record it. They used his original voice, was Blood on the Saddle by Big Al. So that's an authentic Tex Ritter recording that you're hearing when Big Al sings Blood on the Saddle. That's the only non-Disney recording that you hear during that show, which is a fun fact. I did mention Homer and Jethro already. They're in the mix. Wanda Jackson, she sang Tears Will Be the Chaser for Your Wine in the Country Bear. She inspired that song for Country Bear, and she will be in my Country Music Jubilee mix. Let's see, there's a few others that I included. Oh, Johnny and Joni Mosby, otherwise known as the Canadian Sweethearts. I included them. And let's see what else. The Stonemans I already mentioned. Buck Owens I included. So if you want to learn a little bit about the history of these artists, please go to Passport to Dreams, Old and New. And when my great friend Melanie, who's doing the notes for these vlogs, she will include a link to that site for you. So about a week after the vlog has been released, there'll be a notes, like a summary of everything I mentioned today in written form, and it'll be on my website. And you can go there and check that out and get all the details, links, and everything like that. She's doing me a great favor by doing that for me, so I don't have to do it anymore. That's the whole point of doing the videos, is that I don't have to do any more writing. It saves me time. So she's helping me out by writing everything down that I say for posterity, I guess. So anyway, check out that Passport to Dreams Old and New. It's a fantastic site. and especially the Country Music Jamboree articles. There's 3 articles, and it gets into great detail. Next track I added is The Great American Music Machine. Now I want to explain something to you. If you look at the pictures on that I'm scrolling right now, this stage that I'm circling with my mouse is actually this stage. In the early 70s, they remodeled the stage. And I wanted to get into a little bit of the history of that stage. And I pulled up some images for you all to kind of explain, because this is something that I've noticed a lot of people, the younger people that weren't there, don't understand, and they're a little confused by. And I'm going to talk about the history of the Tomorrowland stage. Not to be confused with the stage at the Tomorrowland Terrace, which is a completely different, that's like a bandstand. This was a full stage with as you can see, they had seats, and it was where they put on actual performances. It wasn't a dance band, necessarily. In fact, they discouraged dancing there because of all the chairs. But anyway, prior to 1967, when the new Tomorrowland opened, Disney did have live stage shows, but they were all indoor. There were 3 places that they could have live shows before 1967. One was the Opera House. Before Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln opened in 1964, they did have, between the years of 1962 and 1964, for just a 2-year period there was actually a theater inside that did not have an audio animatronic presentation. It was just a theater. They did have what they called the Mickey Mouse Club headquarters, and they showed Disney cartoons in there, and they had a meet and greet with the Mouseketeers and things like that. But in between that, they would have live shows, and they would invite groups to perform there. Also, the Golden Horseshoe Review in Frontierland, or the Golden Horseshoe Saloon, I should say, they did have live shows, but it was limited because of the seating arrangement. It was tables and chairs, and it's a smaller space, so it was more about small bands. Like I know the Firehouse 5+2 would perform there once in a while. In fact, that's where they actually recorded their Disneyland album. Their live Disneyland album was recorded at the Golden Horseshoe. In fact, several live albums were recorded because the acoustics in there are really good. So the other place they would have live shows was at the Fantasyland Theater, and not to be confused with the current day Fantasyland Theater where Mickey and the Magical Map is performed next to It's a Small World. That was not there. This was an indoor theater which was located where Pinocchio's Daring Journey is now located. So that theater closed in 1982. Before they had the Tomorrowland stage, the majority of live stage shows were put on inside the Fantasyland Theater. So the first year, actually, of the Country Music Jubilee, it was inside the Fantasyland Theater. Before 1967, they finally moved to the outdoor amphitheater known as the Tomorrowland Stage. And this is what the Tomorrowland stage originally looked like. You can see that it kind of matches the aesthetic of Tomorrowland and almost looks kind of like a precursor to Space Mountain with all the spires that it has. It has kind of that Space Mountain look to it, which is interesting because the stage was actually located in the future home of Space Mountain. Space Mountain would actually be right behind this stage if it was there at that time, which it wasn't. Space Mountain wasn't open for another 10 years after the stage was built. Here's another view of that stage. This is another place where the Kids of the Kingdom would perform. And as you can see, they would set up, folding chairs for the audience. So this is what it would look like. I have a picture that gives you a little bit more of a perspective. Here you go. This is kind of what it would look like if you were where the audience sat, and right here is where the stage is. And this right here, Mission Flight to the Moon, this is where Red Rocket's Pizza Port is located today, to give you a little bit of an idea of where this was in Tomorrowland. And this is where the Star Trader is. It was called the Character Shop back then. So this is about where the Starcade and the Star Trader is located today. So right where Space Mountain is today is where this outdoor theater used to be located. Now, in the early 70s, they remodeled the stage, and they gave it this arch look. And this was all part of a new nighttime concert series called The Great American Music Machine. It was actually part of, you see this interesting set piece here. This was the Great American Music Machine. It was like a jukebox, and it would the Kids of the Kingdom, or I don't know if they were the Kids of the Kingdom, but just singers and dancers would come out, and they would perform the top 10 songs of that week. And I think these events took place on Saturday evenings every week during peak seasons. And this was from about 1972 to about 1975. So they would come out and do kind of like a little medley of the top 10 songs of that week, and they would sing and dance and kind of do a Disney take on the top 10 Billboard songs that week. And then after their little number ended, the music box would explode, and out would come that week's guest star. And they had some amazing guest stars, and I'll tell you who some of them were, because they're included in my Great American Music Machine mix. We had the Jackson 5, Chuck Berry, Smokey Robinson, Helen Reddy, the Osmond brothers, of course, the Osmonds, Karen Carpenter, Tony Orlando and Dawn, the Pointer Sisters, Paul Revere and the Raiders, Linda Ronstadt, Olivia Newton-John, the Righteous Brothers, Natalie Cole, Gloria Gaynor. I mean, you name it, they were at Disneyland. This was a time when big name entertainment performed live in the park, and all you had to pay to see them was the price of Disneyland admission, which is pretty amazing. That you got to see a concert with, grade A, top level entertainers of that time for the price of a Disneyland ticket. So, if you want to hear a medley of all the different artists that played at the Great American Music Machine, you can check out my track number 47 on my site. But let me finish up a little bit on the history of the Tomorrowland stage before I move on to the rest of my tracks that I've added. In 1977, the stage was updated. It was in the exact same location, but now Space Mountain came along. So as you can see, this area inside here was outdoor. Today, in 2017, this is an indoor area. But at one time, this was outdoor. There was no roof over that area between this outside area and where Space Mountain is. So this is what that looked like. This was a stage at the base of Space Mountain, and they renamed it from the Tomorrowland stage to the Space Stage. So this was just kind of a continuation of what had been going on at the former Tomorrowland stage. So it remained an outdoor amphitheater. Here's another angle. You can see, I mean, it's a very, can you imagine seeing a live outdoor show with Space Mountain in the background? I mean, that's pretty beautiful, if you ask me. Pretty impressive. So what happened to the Space Stage? Well, when they decided to add Captain EO to Disneyland, originally they were going to have it play at this same stage outdoor. But when they started adding all the laser effects and smoke effects and all these special effects, they decided that to really get the real impact of the show, it needed to be enclosed. So they basically just added a roof to the theater and refurbished the theater and turned it into the indoor Magic Eye Theater, which is still there to this day. So it's pretty amazing to think that that theater, where now they show Star Wars previews, is where there once was an outdoor amphitheater, and they just added a roof to the building. It's pretty crazy. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, how that all evolved and why it can be a little confusing for someone who wasn't there to see that evolution. But I hope I clarified that. Oh, and by the way, here's a picture of Karen Carpenter performing at the Great American Music Machine. So that's what that was all about. Okay, so moving on to the rest of my tracks that I've added. Baroque Hoedown is a mix of all the different versions of Baroque Hoedown, which is the song that is used for the Main Street Electrical Parade. So it's got the original version from actually 1966. The song actually predates the parade by several years. And it has all sorts of fun cover versions of that song. And I turned it into over an hour long of music of just different variations of Baroque Hoedown. And it's a lot of fun. You should check it out. Next track. This track 50 was already there. This is the 1972 original version of the Electrical Parade. You might want to check that out. That's been on the site for a while though, and I didn't need to update it. The Main Street Electrical Parade commercials, I have several commercials, one radio commercial and 3 TV commercials that promoted the Electrical Parade. Great vintage stuff there. Main Street Electrical Parade announcements. The one and only Jack Wagner, the voice of Disneyland, actually announces the parade. It was an in-park announcement, and I've posted it on my site. Now, the Main Street Electrical Parade was on the site before, but I've updated it and extended it and enhanced it. And it's like the most thorough, best version of this I think you'll find. It's the most accurate. It includes all the different music, and everything fades in nice and smoothly. A lot of the mixes out there, the fade from one section of the parade to another is kind of you know, not very smooth, and it's kind of takes you out of it. But the transitions, I tried to do them very smooth and nice and clean, so I'm really happy with how this turned out. Next 2 tracks, Pete's Dragon Medley. The Electrical Parade went on a road trip in 1978, and they actually appeared at the Orange Bowl halftime show in Walt Disney World in Florida. And 2 sections of the parade, the Alice in Wonderland section and the Pete's Dragon section, were presented at the halftime show for the 1978 Orange Bowl. And special music was created for the Pete's Dragon segment. It includes music from the parade, but it also includes additional music. So this is like an extended version of the Pete's Dragon music from the Electrical Parade. Return to Oz. This was a very short-lived float in the parade meant to promote the 1985 film Return to Oz. And they actually had music from the film meant to kind of fit in with the Main Street Electrical Parade theme. They actually did the same thing with the Fox and the Hound a few years earlier and had a Fox and the Hound float it was more like a car decorated in lights, a couple cars, but they didn't have music for it. This one, they actually had music for it, so I included that. And then the last 3 things I just added yesterday are 3 different versions of Fantasy in the Sky, which is the original fireworks show in Disneyland. One version from the 1970s, another version from specifically the year 1980 because it was for the 25th anniversary of Disneyland. And then the third one is from 1983, which is the version most people are familiar with. However, this is fun because a lot of the official releases of the Fantasy in the Sky soundtrack do not include the Jack Wagner introductions. It includes the current voice of Disneyland. So I have the original 1983 version with Jack Wagner doing the introductions. And then there is one more thing that I did add, but it's all the way at the bottom of the page. And that is the 2017 version of the Main Street Electrical Parade, which is track 135. It's almost at the very bottom. It's the fourth from the last track on the page. So this is the present day version, the version that returned to California this year, and it's different. The orchestra, the musical arrangement is completely different from the original 1970s, 1980s version of the show. So you might want to check that out. It's still very enjoyable. I do prefer the original, but I still like this version too. And it was a lot of work for me to set this up because a lot of the music is taken from Walt Disney World's version and Tokyo Disneyland's version, so I had to turn it into Disneyland's version by doing some tricky editing, and it was not that easy. It was a lot of work actually, but I'm pretty happy with how it came out. And it is pretty authentic to how the Disneyland version is presented today, so pretty happy with that. Now, one other thing I want to mention before I get onto the questions that I mentioned before is that I was going to skip over this section. I told you in my last update that I wasn't planning on doing these tracks yet because it was going to be a lot of work, but update, I decided to go ahead and do this section, and it's actually what I'm going to be working on next. So all of these Tomorrowland entertainers from the 70s and early 80s I'm going to be working with next, and I have everything already set up and ready to do final editing on. So you'll see these added in the next few days, and on my next update in 2 weeks I will go into detail on what these tracks are specifically. So you'll have to stay tuned for that. Now let's get into some questions. I wrote down 5 questions. Okay, one question I've been asked kind of recently. It's not something I've been asked a lot in the past, but I've had a few people ask me this recently. I do have on my website a page where I have favorite web links, Disney web links, and I posted several of the places on the web that I frequent or different sites that I partner with, like the Passport to Dreams that I showed you earlier. That's on this page. So this is what the page looks like. I have it divided by Disney Music, Disney History, Disney News and Podcasts, and other great sites. So I've had a lot of people ask me, how can I be added to your favorite Disney web links page? And my answer is, well, I don't want to add you if you're not one of my favorite Disney web links. If you're just a site that's advertising tourism or vacation planning and stuff, that's not what my site is about. So I can't in good faith add you to my favorite. I mean, this is my favorites, and it would be lying to you if I put people on here that are, profit-making organizations that aren't just my favorite sites, So the answer to that is I can add you to this site, to this page, if you are one of my favorite Disney web links, or if you show me your site and I decide, oh wow, this is one of my new favorites, I can add you. But generally the answer would have to be no, because I'm very specific about what I include on this page, and I hate to be like that, but I want this to be a page where people can really see what my specific go-to sites are that I use for developing my site and doing my research and all that kind of stuff. So I'm really picky about that. So I'm not normally that picky, but in this case I have to be. Another question that I'm asked a lot, and this one requires a little bit of explanation, and that's why I'm glad I'm saying it in the video so that I don't have to say it again and again and again. How can I download, This is not edited, folks. How can I download the songs on your website? The answer is you can't. You cannot download. The only way you can listen to the songs is to go to my site. So the reason that I do that, because I could make it downloadable if I chose to, but I specifically make it so you cannot download, is because I am very cautious of the copyright police. Disney may not take a liking to the fact that you can go to my site and download all of their copywritten material. Now, I do change it and edit it and make it my own in a way, but I just don't want to get into any sort of trouble with Disney. I also don't charge anything for the site. I'm not making any money by doing it, so that's another thing that I'm careful about, because they have shut down sites that have charged money for music because of copyright issues. And also, the majority of my music is stuff that is out of print, that you can't find anywhere else, but there are a lot of exceptions to that. There's music that you can purchase and you can find that is in print. And so, just to keep my site safe, because I would never want all this work I put into this project to be shut down by Disney, I don't make it downloadable. And it's for your protection as well as mine, because if I did make it downloadable, there'd be no more Disney Chris. I guarantee it. So that's why I don't make my audio obtainable. If you want to listen to it, you can go to the site and listen to it all the time, as many times as you want. It's up 24 hours a day. It's always there, but you can't download it to your desktop, and I'm sorry, but it just has to be that way. So that's the answer to the next question. I'm so negative. I hope the next answers are a little more positive for you guys. Oh, are you planning on doing a Disney's California Adventure or a Walt Disney World version of the Magical Audio Tour? The question is asked probably twice a week, every week, by people all the time, constantly. The answer is I have thousands of tracks still to add to my Disneyland Park Magical Audio Tour. If I ever get through that, and it's going to take me years to get it done. I've already been working on it for years. It's going to take me a lot more time to get it done. Once I do get it done, I will be looking for a new project, and that very well could be California Adventure. I say California Adventure before Disney World because to even consider doing Disney World is mind-boggling, because there is so much involved in Disney World. I don't even think I have enough lifetimes to do a Disney World collection. But I have considered doing a California Adventure collection, but that's years down the road, so don't look for it anytime soon. I do have a friend that collects California Adventure audio, so while I'm busy working on my Disneyland stuff, I have someone keeping track of everything going on at California Adventure, so that if I ever do go to work on California Adventure, I can always team up with him. We've already talked about this, and we can work together and create a California Adventure collection with all the audio that he's been collecting already, and he's got everything ready to go. So, next question. And my cat is sitting on my notes, so I gotta... She's being a pest today. Where do you find all your music? I get asked that a lot. I find it through making connections with people online who have been collecting music. People that worked at the park in the 70s and 80s have contacted me and wanted to share different pieces of audio that they collected when they were working there. I've also found some websites, and I specifically go to a site called Mouse Bits, which is one of the sites listed on my favorite Disney web links if you want to check that out. I don't. They do a lot of sharing of audio on that site. And the rule with them is it has to be audio that is not available to be purchased. So anything that's downloadable from them has to be stuff that's out of print and Disney is not selling currently. Otherwise, you can't post it. So mouse bits, networking, sharing with people, just collecting music throughout my lifetime. Since I was a little boy, I've been collecting music. It's just been a lifetime project, a lifetime process. It's not anything I can easily explain. It's just a lot of different things, but mostly networking nowadays. Through my website, I've met a lot of fantastic people with great audio collections that are willing to share and want to share and get that music out there for people to enjoy. Another question I get asked is, do you have this song? Do you have that song? Do you have this song? Do you have that song? Well, if you ever need to ask me, you can go to the Disney Audio Tour Index. I have every single song on my site cataloged, is that a word? Cataloged on this page. It's all divided by chapter. So let's say, do you have the Sleeping Beauty walkthrough? Well, just go to this page and find Fantasyland, right? Because that's in Fantasyland. And I got 2 Fantasylands, so check both. And, ooh, look, Sleeping Beauty Castle Drawbridge. Oh, I don't see Sleeping Beauty. Oh, here's Sleeping. Oh, there it is. He does have it. And then down at the bottom of the section, you can click here and go to that page. So anything that you want to know if I have it, just check this index, and you can find it for yourself without having to ask me. Feel free to ask me anytime. I don't mind. That I don't mind. That's easy to answer. But if you don't want to wait for me, you can go to the index and check for yourself. Also, I do have a wish list. And to get to my wish list, there's only one way to get to it, and that's to go to the index and click here. And my wish list is everything I do not have that I want. So this is my wish list, and I need to update it. There's a few things on here that I now have, which is exciting. But the reason I'm hesitant to update my list is because I'd have to redo all these beautiful posters. Because you see how the posters stop and I have the text going here and then they start again. So if I changed the what I need, then the posters would get all askew. So I'd have to redo all that. So that's why I haven't done it. I'm lazy. So that's my update for today. I kept it as short as I possibly could, I hope. If you have any other questions that you'd like me to answer on the vlog, you can always email me. I'm dclyndon@gmail.com. That's Lyndon is Lyndon, like the President Lyndon Johnson. That's how you spell it. And I hope everybody is having a wonderful summer so far. I guess it's not officially summer, but it's kind of unofficially summer. It's June. The weather here in Rhode Island is fantastic today. So, have a great week. I'll talk to you next week. And in 2 weeks, I will have a brand new update. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.